Have you ever spent a great deal of time and energy saving a bunch of money and searching for a great deal on that extra special toy you were looking for all your life, but then once you got it into your possession, all of a sudden that fire you had inside your belly and heart to get this sucker up and running decided it's time for a divorce, and then it took the kids to the pool, never to be seen or heard from again? Well, I didn't quite take the kids to the pool, but when I purchased this 1986 Suzuki Lt250r 4 years ago, I never imagined I would push it in a shed outside and leave it in there to die for 4 whole years. So today we're pulling this sucker out from John's shed of death and trying to give her a new lease on life, or at least a halfway used lease that won't expire in 2 years with a huge amount of excessive bullshit and hidden fees without our knowledge. Yeah man, that's the kind of lease we should give her. If you're as excited as me to revive some old school Legend 2-stroke stuff, then let's get to work. What's up, guys? Welcome. Mike has left the chat. Welcome back, Stupid Fast Nation. Let's get back to work. We're waiting on some parts for the YFZ1000R. I'll talk about that in that video when we do it, because the finale on that thing is going to be epic. I promise you. You're going to want to see that one when it's done. I have a feeling you guys are really going to like that one. I have some super sick stuff planned for that. So anyways, I'm not even talking about it. It's sitting behind the camera. If you don't follow me on my Facebook stuff, you're not allowed to see it until it gets posted here on the channel. So if you want to see any progress pictures in that, you got to go check out my Facebook, my personal and my business ones. Both under, actually, my personal is S Fast John. My business is Stupid Fast John. So anyways, we're getting back into the swing of things. It's tax time. I've been kind of lazy over the winter. I'm not even going to lie to you guys. I've been beating myself up the last couple weeks. But anyways, that's not important for the channel. What's important is we're going to fix this thing up today. I need to get stuff cracking for tax time. I need to start pumping some machines out. This is going to be the first ATV that we're going to hit. We did the RMZ250 a couple weeks ago. We're going to be hitting the Lt250R today. This one I believe is a 1986. Don't quote me on that. I'm not perfect with all of my information. I work on such a wide variety of things. So I believe this is a 1986. It has no power valve. I'm pretty sure 87 was the first year for power valve. You're free to yell at me in the comments below. I can take it. With that being said, we're going to get this thing ripping and riding. Not a lot to do to this thing to make it ripping and riding. I would love to do a ground up show build out of one of these things, but unfortunately, today is just not the day for that. We've got to get some machines flipped. This one has been here probably 2 years. I think when Justin was still here working, helping me flip stuff, that that's when we got this one, and it's been sitting out in my shed. I wanted to do a ground up build on it for a couple reasons. It has some more rarer parts on it that you can't get, and some I have on a shelf for it that I'm not putting it on this one. So originally I wanted to take it all the way down, strip everything, redo the whole thing from the ground up, just because I've never done a full Lt250R build before, and I love my old school 2-strokes. Who doesn't love a good old school 2-stroke, right? Especially the legend bikes. 250Rs were legends. Honda, Suzuki, whoever made them. So anyways, this thing's pretty cool. It's got some rare parts. We've got a little bit of work to do. And so let's just hammer it down, guys. Let's get it going. Let's get started on the Lt250R build. I think what we're going to do is get the top end situated. The bottom end seems good. Goes through the gears and everything. I already checked that out. The piston looks a little nicked up even though it's brand new. And so we'll get the top end all going and together on it. We'll get this thing running, riding. I'd like to clean the plastics up. I have a front bumper for it that I might put on it. I don't know. We'll see how well it goes along the process and how well I like the machine. If I like it, I'll be really nice to it, and I'll put in a bunch of stuff on it. But for now, let's just get cracking. Let's get that nice cinematic rolling. Let's get working on this Lt250R. Let's go. All right, guys. And that brings me to today's product sponsor for the video, Hyperlite LED lights. Guys, looking at these things, I'm gonna tell you, I love the way they look. I have been kind of side-eyeing and adoring Hexagon light setups for quite some time. So this is definitely a cool, more of an aesthetic thing, but I'll tell you what, I had 4 rows of lights here and there just wasn't enough light for me. I like to get really detailed with some of my stuff, and this added a lot of light. And then I'll probably still just have one up here, one in the back. and maybe even one going across here for the engine stuff. But I'll tell you what, man, this thing added quite a bit of lighting to this very, very dark area. And I have some of them shut off now, the strip lights. So we're getting the full effect of the Hexagon light setup. Guys, Hyperlite LED lights, they're super easy to install. They're plug and play. And then they got one cord that plugs in. Very, very simple setup. There's no crazy instructions or anything crazy to put it together. And then they have these cool little mounting tabs on every single joint area where you can put screws in or hang them off of zippy ties. They supply you with some of that stuff already, lags for sheetrock as well as zippy ties. So guys, if you're interested in getting some LED lights, I highly recommend that you go look up Hyperlite LEDs. As always, top comment and link in the description below for you guys to get your own discount. Let's get back to working on the Lt250r. Let's get it going. All right, boys, let's try this again with a microphone since keep setting my microphone down everywhere in the shop and forgetting about it, just like I do my tools. If anybody else does that, laugh with me. So a couple things to talk about really fast. The exhaust, I'm pretty sure is aftermarket. My buddy told me what kind of exhaust. I think it was a Clem Research or something like that, but I'm not 100% sure. If you know, comment below. You can see there was some pitting on the exhaust. And it looks like somebody painted it up. Not sure if this is a homemade bracket or not. Have no idea for sure. But it's TIG welded. See, this looks factory, this piece right here. And then this is all TIG welded. So it's like, did they break something and then maybe fixed it? Or is this actually an aftermarket exhaust for this? I have no idea. But regardless, drop me a comment if you know where this bad boy's from. And if it's factory, don't tell me because I don't want to know. Anyways, so top end, here's the cylinder. This one's pretty interesting. I think this quad has a couple different rarer type pieces on it. But this is a star ported cylinder. You can see this guy here is a little lightning bolt and it's got like the star port. See if I can get you guys a good view. That exhaust is opened up a lot, man. Look how big that is. Holy crap. And then the intake. We're going to have to definitely ultrasonic clean everything. You can see it's a little smooth. Probably a little too smooth for my liking. Guys, on carbureted stuff, you shouldn't have it really smooth on the intake. It should be rough to help atomize the fuel and air. And then on the exhaust side, you want it polished, super smooth, glassy smooth, so that the exhaust just travels freely back and forth, in and out, in and out, in and out. On fuel injected stuff, it won't matter because then the injector sprays it normally right into the cylinder and it atomizes everything for you. So you normally don't have to worry about that with fuel injection, but they didn't have fuel injection on ATVs back in 1986. So anyways, looks like the piston's got a couple nicks on it. I see some JB weld on the top of the case there. We're going to definitely have to fix that. That's going to be an interesting one to fix. It's on the top above the sprocket. Very hard place to reach with a TIG torch. And the rear shock is blown out on it. I don't know if I have a shock here for it. I have to look. And the fronts are in much better shape though. It looks like somebody did take care of this at one point. The frame was powder coated or painted. I can't tell. At one point, the plastics were painted, but they came out yucky. And I don't, man. The thing is, like, that's the only thing that draws me away from the Lt250r. I was never a huge fan of the front fenders. And I know some you guys that love the LTs and Garage MC Matt, I am sorry. I don't really like the front fenders on Lt250rs. They were like the only thing the engineers really failed at. They were like, hey, let's get this thing running real awesome, and then we're just not going to worry about the looks because the running of it's going to sell it. And then, no, that didn't happen. This became the least liked out of all the legend bikes, in my opinion, because everybody I talk to, they're like, oh, the Honda, the Honda, the Honda. But anyways, there's a tiny bit of play in the swing arm, the front swing arm bushings. The rear carrier bushings are in great shape. I don't know if I'm going to change the front swing arm bushings. It really is only the tiniest bit of play. And And it's just really just cleaning things up, reassembling, going over brakes, throttle, you know, just all that general stuff. It goes through the gears, so we don't have to worry about that. I'd like to put a seat cover on it, but we'll see. I got grips on order for it, and it's gonna need lots of little bolts and stuff like that. So why don't we get started taking the plastics off and kind of investigating more about this, and then we'll kind of reassess, and then we'll see where we're going with this thing moving forward. What do you say? Let's get it going, baby. Let's go. Alright boys, so the very first thing we're gonna do is get these seat and plastics off of this bad mamma jamma so we can assess what the actual situation is going on underneath of everything. Once we get the plastics off, we're going to go ahead and get this circlip off so we can get this piston wrist pin out. And that way I can clean up the edges of the piston. So that way we can put this sucker back in there with a fresh hone and send her down the road. Whoops. Comment below if you've ever lost the circlip like that before. That was such a rookie move, John. And so was that.
I'll have to get those out.
Oh boy, we're off to a great start. Alright guys, check it out. I found this on my shelf, and I thought, we'll give it a shot. I don't think it's gonna work, but we'll give it a shot. It works a little bit, not the best, but it'll at least give us a jump start on getting majority of this paint off. So let's give it a shot. Oh wow, putting it on heavier actually does work pretty good. Look at that. Alright, I take it back. Single layer of junk paint from 20 years ago will come off with a $30 can of paint remover. Still not really worth it. Well, I don't know. Maybe it is. Who knows? It worked for this application, so I'm going to stay positive. All right, boys. And girls. I'm sorry. I'm going to get better at that. Rippers and Ripettes. We have something to go over here. I think that I have a valuable piece or several pieces of information that I can share with you guys. After I bend this back in a little bit. Don't you bend out on me and lose shape. Better. Okay, so I've tried a couple different methods of removing paint. I have a little bit of paint removal experience in my life, but I don't really do a lot of it because I have sandblasters and other things that make quick work out of stuff like this. But unfortunately, plastics are the difficult area because you don't want to ruin the surface texture of the plastic. And being that these are potentially aftermarket plastics, and I really like this set of plastics because it's not OEM with the huge mud flap hanging out. It just has this nice little sleek corner, like a race cut style plastic, which I think is cool. And it has the wider seat, which I didn't see on regular like 84, 85, 86 Lt250Rs. Or is it 85 and 86? There's no 84. I don't think there's an 84. Anyways, so I tried a couple different methods. One was obviously the paint remover, which did remove some of the paint, not all of it, but it did, and it's a mess. There's literally a huge mess underneath of the camera stand right there, the tripod. Oh my God, it's very bad. So yes, this works, but it makes a mess, and it sucks. The second method we tried was a razor blade, good old razor blade. Now, I showed a video right here of the section we hit with paint stripper, and then went back over it with a Harbor Freight heat gun. These things are like 30 bucks, and they are a great investment. Guys, I highly suggest you go buy one of these. 30 bucks, and it'll take care of everything you want to do. I do my electrical connections with it. I do tint and decals with it. It's really good for a lot of stuff, so get you one. Not an advertisement, just me being helpful. So razor blade, we scrape that. It kind of leaves lines in it, but if you go over it with the heat gun, it does, because I did a section here where it was paint removal and razor blade, and you can see they start to disappear. So as long as you're careful, don't put gouges in the plastic. Just gently back drag this, I believe is what we would call that in landscaping, when we back drag the blades on the backhoe and stuff. So you back drag this. You don't dig it into the plastic, you drag it away from the plastic. And then that's how I was doing it, like this. And it comes right off. There's actually 2 layers of paint here. It does come right off, but it takes forever. You got to sit there and it's going to take forever. I don't have that kind of time to spend. I'm going to sit here for 3-4 hours scraping paint off just to have a slightly better looking, not clapper because it's an Lt250r, but you know, slightly better looking ATV, for lack of a better word. So the third method, I got to thinking, and I was like, well, there's got to be a better way. So I start searching around the toolbox. What can I makeshift something into making this better? Which is, makeshift is like one of my things. I like to be creative in what I do every day and everything that I do. I'm very creative. I always come up with solutions and ideas and all kinds of stuff. So I was like, I keep old sanding bits for times like this. Now, normally these are for like cam journals on heads. I'll kind of smooth them out with this a little bit if they're kind of rough or whatever. Polish them up with the duller ones. I don't like the real rough ones for that. But these dull ones that have already been used are great for removing this paint. I just gave it a quick try and I was like, this ain't gonna work anyways, but I'll give it a shot. It doesn't put any marks on the plastic because it's dull. It's got no sandpaper-ness left to it, you know what I mean? And then it literally was just coming right off. So I'll do a small section here for you so you can kind of see. I'll do this whole section right here. And then that way you guys can see I'm not messing with you, that it's legit. And I'll even shine the light on the plastics for you so you can kind of get a glare and see the imperfections. I know you can see the stuff flying off of it. Perfect. So that took a total of what? 10 seconds? 15 seconds? I don't know. Still gonna make a mess. I don't think there's any way around that, but you can see that whole section is now cleaned off in like 2.5 seconds. Not literally. And then let me see if I can get a nice glare on the light for you. So you can see there's no sanding marks. Like all this dirt, this dirty stuff was already here. You can see there's no marks from the sanding disc. And I'll be honest with you guys, these plastics are pretty scratched up already. So it's going to be difficult to see. But there's lines. I don't know how well you guys can see that in the glare right there. But there's little wire brush lines all over these plastics. Whoever painted these didn't do us any justice by wire wheeling all of this. So I'm going to go ahead and get this done. I've got that on in the background. I'm going to clean up the carburetor and all the other stuff, and then we'll get moving on. All right, boys, let's have a look at the progress of the plastics. Super stoked. Not about the mess, but damn, look at these plastics. And I wanted to share with you guys real fast. I don't even care that I have to clean this up. It actually didn't come out bad at all. Pretty smooth. I did not touch any of these back plastics with a razor blade, and the fronts I kind of stopped after that front section we were talking about. But dude, I think these look freaking 10,000 times better than that pale ass yellow color they were before. This looks freaking great. And honestly, this will probably still clean up like all of this black. I can probably get all of this stuff off of there yet, which I'm gonna do, just not yet. I'm gonna wait till the end and kind of clean it up off camera, and then we'll get that nice cinematic at the end. So yeah, give me a minute. Let me get this place cleaned up. This is insane. Look at it all. It's literally everywhere. So yeah, I'm gonna get this cleaned up quick. Well, I guess it would have been helpful if I didn't end that video before showing you guys what I actually did to remove the rest of the paint. That was the fastest process I was able to do on this. It was taking the heat gun, the Harbor Freight heat gun in one hand, in my left hand, heating the plastic right where the paint is, and then chasing it with this. Now this bit, I think I got this from Harbor Freight last week before I got incredibly ill. And it's made out of plastic, as you can see. Now, when I did the front plastics with this, I didn't use the heat gun, and it still took it off pretty good, and it did not warp this plastic at all. But as soon as I started using a lot of intense heat, obviously plastic bends and melts and stuff with a lot of heat. So, but the heat gun, man, I'll tell you what, that is what made the paint flake off and the big chunks and stuff like that, because it kind of softened it up, and then it would just come right off with no issues. So highly recommend plastic on plastic with a heat gun. This little $5 bit or whatever, it might not even have been that. It might have been like $3.50. I mean, it's friggin' Harbor Freight, man. Who cares? Buy 3 of them, and for 15 bucks, or sorry, 30, 15, 45 bucks, you can literally have clean plastics again. So let's get it, guys. All right, boys. We're gonna clean some of this up, try and figure out wherever the actual leak is so that we can repair it. And then I see there's this big open box here. It's kind of an interesting looking box. I don't know what it's for. If you guys know what it's for, let me know in the comments below. I took the cover and the rubber grommet out so that when we're welding, we don't kill this. And then we'll probably also have to dump some water on the sprocket seal so we don't kill that as well. So let's go ahead and get a grinder bit on this thing and see what we can accomplish. Got my paper towel over my cylinder area so that way I don't get nothing down in the crankcase again. Almost there, guys. Couple little touch-up spots, and then we should be good. I'm gonna probably hit this with a chisel and a hammer, but I don't want to break it. So I don't know. I might just smooth all this out and like see where the holes, if there are any holes out. Clean it all up around the bolt, all around this little piece of webbing right here. Get all this smoothed out so I get my torch in here, and then I will go ahead and weld over that wherever we think it may possibly be leaking, or maybe it wasn't leaking at all and they just did it for security. But we're gonna go ahead and fix this area and make it look better. I'm not sure why this always happens to me, but every time I shut the camera off, we then find what we're looking for. There's the hole. A little bit of digging and we were able to find the hole. Now we just have to smooth all of this out, and then we can run a couple passes over this and fill that baby in. My guess is where this webbing comes is probably there was a stand here for the chain case protector to go on, and that was probably one of the bolt holes. And I'm gonna assume one of these other ones down here is probably the second one. But yeah, we're gonna go ahead and get this smoothed out. We'll get her welded up. Should be good to go then. Running out. Almost there. I don't care if it sticks out a little bit.
because obviously I could have did 10 times better if I had the motor out and on a stand, but due to me being extremely sick with the flu, I just don't have the energy or the willpower to want to take this motor out right now. So it doesn't stick out past anything, it won't hurt anything, it doesn't actually matter that much. So it's not like this thing is a full OEM quad that we're restoring to OEM condition that's going to be worth a good bit of money. It's not. It's just a rider. So for instances like this, I don't mind not making, you know, like it's good enough. It's not that it's bad, but sometimes I'm a little bit of a perfectionist and I overthink the hell out of everything. It's just my general nature. There you have it, guys. One sealed up transmission leaky leakerson. Let's move on to the next stage.
Alright, now that we got the transmission sealed up, it's time to move on to the top end. I did manage to get lucky when I was digging around the bottom end with a magnet and a needle nose pliers. I rotated the crank around and thankfully the washer came right up in between the rod and the crank. So we got both the washers. The only other thing was the circlip that flew halfway across the shop. I did manage to find a brand new one in the box up on the shelf with the other piston for this. So thankfully, she's ready to go. Let's get this baby installed. We're going to put a fresh hone on the cylinder and we're going to see if this thing fires up. Let's get it done. Pro tip, lubricate your bearings. Do not forget this step. It never hurts to have a lot of extra lubrication. If you catch my drift, boys. One thing I forgot to mention, actually I forgot to do it while I had the cylinder off of the engine, was that the one exhaust hole where it should have a stud or a bolt or even some threads that you can put something in was completely torn apart. So I wound up having to weld that, grind it flush, re-drill, re-tap it. But we did manage to get that fixed, so now we could have all 3 bolts pulling the exhaust into the exhaust seal. Oh yeah, baby. Alright boys, and on the carburetor, we got the stock, I believe it's a TM34 McCuney. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments below. I left everything that it was jetted for alone. All I did was ultrasonic clean it, get it ready, and that's pretty much it. So it's got a 220 main in it, and I don't know the size of the pilot because I couldn't get it out and I wasn't willing to destroy it because I could see light through it. So with that being said, let's get this sucker installed and let's get this thing fired up. Alright boys, no microphone. I've got all the fluids filled up, the coolant's full. Some of the floor wanted some coolant too, so I got some on there. And then fuel and transmission fluid, we're good to go. We've got some 36-to-1 rolling up in this bee, and we're gonna see if she can start quick. Now, the brakes still need finished on it. I have no brakes, but let's see if we can get it running first, and then if it runs, we'll give her some Hail Marys, fix the brakes, you know what I mean? And we'll take her out and see what she does. Alright, I did check for spark on this one. She does have spark, so. Alright. So 2 major issues. Don't mind the hairdo. It's Saturday and I don't care today because I don't usually do a lot of work on the weekends. So with that being said, I did find a couple things. The spark was there, but it was intermittent, and so it would like spark once or twice and then cut out when I went back to recheck it again. So I was like, what the heck. So I found a couple broken wires down here for the pickup coil. I fixed those. And I'm gonna cheat. My foot's hurting pretty good today. I must have kicked this thing 100 times yesterday at least. So I'm gonna cheat a little bit today. I got a socket hooked up to my drill. This is the way me and Vasily used to start his 3-cylinder drag quad. So I'm gonna cheat a little bit and see if I get this thing to fire up. I think we're still having a carburetor issue, but we might be able to at least hear it fire up before I take it back off. Well, a couple pops is a good sign. Okay. We're definitely
definitely starving for fuel because I pulled the spark plug before and it's literally dry. So I know we're not getting any fuel into the cylinder. So I'm gonna take this carb apart real quick. I bet you those floats. These is that real weird style where it's the two brass rods and they kind of float up and down inside the float ball instead of it being attached directly to the plunger with two of them on a thing. Because this is old school technology, so it's all original. So give me a couple minutes, we're gonna get this sucker running here. All right, guys, so I think I pulled a rookie mistake on this old school key-in setup. I don't deal with a lot of these older key-ins anymore. This is what the float bowl looks like inside of a 1986 Lt250r. These are very unique floats. So as you can see, they move up and down on those rods, and then they have these little tiny rods sticking out the sides. Those come into contact with this here, which is on the plunger, which is what lets the fuel come into the carburetor. So if this can't go down enough for the plunger to open up and allow the fuel to go in, the float bowl's not gonna have any fuel in it, which is literally exactly what is happening. But it's my fault because this is my first time messing with one of these and I got this carburetor fully taken apart. It came in this bin right here in pieces. And so I didn't go look at the diagram because I've worked on 100,000 carburetors and I thought I had it right. But this little brass, copper, whatever piece right here, I think is upside down, which is not letting these floats come up. So I think if we just flip this where they go like this instead of like this, that those floats will be able to move freely, allowing the plunger to sit properly for the fuel to come in, and then that should eliminate our issue. Let's freaking go. All right, so two things. One was I noticed when I was turning the fuel on before, the fuel really didn't want to travel from the petcock down into the float bowl. So that's what made me think the floats were closed, because if there's no air release, that fuel won't come down. But as soon as I pulled the fuel line off, the fuel would come flying out of the petcock. So I knew that the petcock's working good. Well, now this time that we flipped that brass piece around, she's good to go. Now it flew right into the carburetor. That counts as a start. Okay. Why is she so smoky? Whew. She is smoking so bad. I could have too much oil in the mix. I thought I mixed it 40-1, but I smashed my mixing cup. So I very well may have it mixed a little too rich with things. So I'm gonna go ahead and mix up some fresh gas for this. Okay, this is not a fair representation. I can't even stand in here. Oh God. I got it running good. Like I said, I leaned the mix out a little bit. But she must be burning something out because that thing is smoking bad. I hope it ain't the tranny seal. Oh, please don't let it be the tranny crank seal. But we'll see. Let's check it out. It does run good now. Two kicks that time. I don't know what the heck is why I know 2-stroke smoke, but I really think I still have the oil too rich. So I'm going to mix up a fresh batch. I only added a little bit of gas to what was in it. I'm going to mix up a fresh batch. I'm going to get the plastics on this thing, finish the brakes, and then take it for a ride. Let's go, nation. All right, boys, she is ready to run. I got the plastics on, got her full fuel. All right, let's get her outside. She starts pretty easy now. Couple kicks, give her a little bit of gas, and she fires right up. It won't idle perfect, but I'm gonna work on that. I just figured before it gets dark out, I'd love to take this thing for a little rippy poo and see what she's like. I haven't ridden an Lt250r in a while, man. It's been a while, so. All right, let's, we got the gas on, yep. Okay. All right, now. She fires up pretty good. Uh-oh. A lot of oil coming out by the, I think this pipe's got a bunch of shit in it. So did we mount the wire? Or did the keyway come loose? Because this didn't shut off. She died on me. Or did I foul the plug? I bet you I fouled the plug. That was the plug from the Quadzilla. These take a very special spark plug. NGK B8EG non-resistor plug. Or did I run all the gas out already? No, plenty of gas in there. All right, well, what's your deal here, Zucchi? She ain't wanting it. All right, guys, so yeah, this thing's not running proper and I cannot end the video there. So what we're gonna do, I've come down to two conclusions. Number one, we saw how much oil this thing was burning. It's got to be coming from somewhere. It's not coming from the gas. This thing isn't running so rich that it's burning so much oil it's spitting out of the intake and everything, or not the intake, but out by the intake from the exhaust, from burning it, and it's all over the back of the exhaust silencer. So I've come down to two conclusions. She died on us outside. This could mean either A, the flywheel popped off or it sheared the keyway, which is a common thing on these old two smokers, or two,
the crank seal on the transmission side is bad and we were eating the transmission fluid, which is what I think is happening. So I took the liberty of ordering a clutch gasket, some crank seals, a fresh spark plug. We're gonna go ahead and get this thing off, and I'm betting you we're gonna find a bad crank seal. But let's tear into it and see first, and then we'll assess as we go. Well, at least there's something in it. That's better than nothing. But you can tell we're just about out already, and there's probably, I don't know, maybe only a quarter quart, or maybe even a half quart here if you're lucky. And I'm pretty sure, yeah, it's 900 milliliters, so this thing takes at least a whole quart. So we definitely ate up a bunch of this because I made sure this was full. Actually, it was probably a little over full when I got done with it. So that's our first indicator, but I'm still going to be positive, but we're going to take this cover off and check it out. Yeah, so that's not it. She's on there tight yet. Just figured for shits and giggles we'd check it out. Alright boys, we got all the clutch basket and primary drive gear stuff off, and that's what our seal looks like. Kind of hard to tell if it's bad or not, but it looks out of round. We can put it back, we can put this gear back on quick and just kind of see how they fit together. This gear was a little bit of a pain in the butt to get off, but yeah, it looks like it's oblong on the bottom, like it might have been sucking oil in, so we ain't gonna know until we get it back in, start it back up. But I think the air leak's what caused it to shut off. Just even the tiniest little gap, because these bottom ends pull vacuum, and you have to have both sides sealed properly. So let's go ahead and get this changed out. Also, I quick wanted to show you guys this. I just found this. This spring was sitting on the gear like this when I pulled it off. Now, this seal still has a spring on it, on the outside lip here, but there might be one on the inside also, I'm not sure, but that spring shouldn't be there. That might have been picking up on this lip too when this gets pushed all the way in, so that could be another factor. Don't leave your springs on there, take them off, that doesn't belong there. Now for seal removal, this should be pretty simple. I'm going to take a slide hammer, it's just a 2 or a 5 pound slide hammer. I'm gonna screw this little tip on like this. She's a little hook on there. We'll get her in there. We'll slowly work her out. Yep, boom, there we go. That was pretty simple. The only thing is I ripped that, so we won't know if that was ripped or not. But we can compare this against the new seal, and I think this was shot anyways, but... Alright, now installing the seal, also pretty simple. Here's the new one. Here's the old one. You can tell there's even a difference in the design. This looks like the maybe an original seal. I don't know. You guys tell me. But you can see the spring is on the inside on the new seal. That way when the crank primary drive gear pushes in, it'll scoop that spring back and roll it around the edge rather than trying to push it in and under like this one. So one thing that's good practice is take a little bit of 3-bond or Honda bond, and I like to put this on the outside of the seal. It'll act as a lubricator at first, and then once it dries, it'll be a nice little seal in between the case and the seal. It'll stop air from getting in there. I like 3-bond because it's the only one that's fuel resistant, and it's the same stuff we put on the case gaskets and stuff like that. So for 2 strokes anyways. And installing these is pretty simple. I gotta wipe my finger off. I don't want to waste this, but you put this in. I usually get a socket that's pretty close to the same size. I've got one that's really dang close. It's a 36 millimeter.
and you get that guy on there and you just go around, tap her in. Now this is actually going in pretty easy. And probably just the last little bit, I'll need some taps. So I'll grab my rubber mallet. I like to push that in until it touches the bearing, which is exactly what we just did.
All right, guys, so it was at this point in the video that we had a slew of issues that led up to this point, and it turns out you can't put the crank seal all the way into the bearing. So I just wanted to clarify that before we move forward. I don't want anybody installing their crank seal like that. Apparently, this is the first time I've ever seen this on a two-stroke. Normally the crank seals touch the back of the bearing on 99 million things that I've worked on before. I've never seen one like this where the crank seal only sits flush with the case, and then there's a gap between the crank seal and the bearing. And that gap is where the port is to lubricate the crank bearing, rather than it being on the inside, which I think is how the Yamaha Banshee is, where those two ports or whatever go down through the case to lubricate the bearing. So that's mistake number one. Mistake number two, this thing lost compression, and I'm going to talk about that here in a second. I don't want to ruin the rest of the video footage, but yeah, I just wanted to cover the crank seal real fast. Let's get back to the video footage. All right, rippers and ripettes. So this thing is giving us a run for our money. I did the crank seal on it. I kicked it off camera a bunch of times. I mean, 200 times plus. But I'll tell you, the compression, when I got back here in the shop before I did the crank seal, it felt like it, or actually when I was kicking it out in the yard, it just seemed too easy to kick, like almost no compression. And I got really confused because it had compression when we first pulled it out of the shop. It wasn't near what I thought it should be. I'll be honest with you, from all the bikes I've kicked over the years, I don't think that this thing was up to par. Even though it was a fresh piston and we honed the cylinder, this is the piston we took out. It's a 70.50 millimeter. So actually what I've decided to do was a compression test, and I did a compression test, but you can see I already took this piston out. There's actually nothing wrong with it. It's got, you know, just ever so slightly pairing marks basically on the sides. That's what I like to call that, mating marks, because you will have some scuffage, a little tiny bit, nothing deep. There's almost nothing that touches my fingernail, so it passes a fingernail test, but you can see it in the light. But we know we had good lubrication because it was pulling in half the tranny fluid, but I just don't understand. These rings aren't sticky, but we had like almost no compression. So I decided to say, screw it, and we're just gonna go completely fresh instead of using a cylinder's bore that we don't know if it's out of round. But I'll tell you, when I took my dial bore, when I took the cylinder off camera, I stuck a dial bore gauge in it because I have a really good dial bore gauge, and I checked it and it was like 4 thousandths out of round, or yeah, like it was a little under. It was in the 3 thousandths, but 3 thousandths out of round is enough to cause a little bit, I guess, a little bit of compression leakage. And I don't know if it was just like the rings wearing, and that's what, like, because we got some ride time out of it, but we lost all compression on this thing. I mean, 60 PSI is not enough for this thing to run. And so maybe that excess oil was causing us to have a better seal. And maybe that's why I had to use a drill to start it at first. I've never had to do that on a machine before, but I just thought, you know, whatever garbage was in it and stuff like that didn't get cleared out. So anyways, without further ado, I'm gonna bore my first cylinder out, or at least give it a shot on something that I don't know if I can get another cylinder for it. So I've got a 71 millimeter piston. Let's go ahead and get that cylinder bored out, and then we will start fitting this guy in and see. Let's get it done. All right, guys, so just for comparison, here is the old piston, 70.50 millimeter. You can see the rings move very freely in and out of the piston. Nothing is getting bound up. Doesn't look like there's any crazy wear on the rings or anything like that. I see this spot right here, right at the tip of my finger there. That looks like a little bit of wear, but looking at the top corner of it, I don't see like a chunk out of it or anything, so I don't know though, and I can't necessarily feel it. Anyways, that's the piston and rings. Seems good and usable to me, I don't know, but we went ahead and bored the cylinder out for the 71. Got her piston to bore clearance all spec'd out. I got it all honed already. As you can see, everything's fresh on it. Freshy fresh. And she's a nice snug fit now. There's no play. Hold on. I mean, sorry, not that there's no play, but there's only the amount of play you would want in a piston to bore clearance. See that little tiny bit right there? That's all you want. I gotta say, this other one was a little more sloppy. I mean, I can't show you now, but because I already bored the cylinder, but you guys get the idea. So, I don't have my sheet in front of me, but I believe it was 3 thousandths piston to bore clearance. All right, guys, one thing real quick before I slap this back together. I wound up pulling out the old trusty Dremel and putting a nice little cone-shaped bit on there. You can see I've already been using it. And basically what I noticed was that when you port a cylinder, some porters, I don't want to discredit anybody, but some porters don't bevel at all. And I think that's what happened here. Or when I bored the cylinder out, something happened where essentially we had an issue. But I want you guys to see those bevels right there. The one to the right over there has no bevel on it. And then this one here, I put a slight bevel on it. Roughly 45 degrees to the cylinder. So if the cylinder was your up and down, you would do perpendicular this way. And 45 would be in the middle of that. And that's what we're shooting for, just so you guys get like a decent little close-up view of that there. You can see the beveling is like almost non-existent on that right port. So yeah, that's all I wanted to show you guys. I'm gonna get this thing slapped back together and finish beveling that one. Alright guys, we got this thing running a hell of a lot better. After I put the crank seal in, this thing has now become a one-kick bike. I'm super stoked. The throttle response is brap, 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 just the way we want it to be. So YOLO, let's get on it. Let's see what she does. No choke, just gas, and we shall see. That was a cold start. That's cold as can be, guys. She definitely pulls better. Get a little warm-up lap in her. Feels good, I'm happy. Gotta get it warmed up. There might still be some oil in the pipe because we burned quite a bit of fluid in this thing. Yeah, that sounds snappy. Oh yeah, baby! She got that top end pull, that's for sure. Oh yeah, baby, come on. Power wheeling in. Oh, she's snappy, yo. I like it.
baby, slow down, slow down. Woo, look at that trail of smoke, baby. Clearing out that pipe now. She don't like to go in neutral, but I hear that's a common thing with these LT250Rs. But she will idle, I promise you. She will idle. Oh yeah, she sounds snappy now, baby. Yep. There you have it. I think I left the air screw at 2 turns. We might have to put that back to 1.5 because I read online that these are like a 1 to 1.5, not a 2 like Yami's. But good enough to go for a little rippy poo and get the old adrenaline going, yeah? Yeah, baby, let's go. I can't even get it into 3rd gear, man. Oh my God. Yeah, man, that's cool. I like it. Yeah, baby. All right. Let's see. Will she do a donut now? These tires do not like donuts, but that's okay. Yahoo! Oh my God, yo. I am extremely happy with this build. That's about the right level of smoke you want to see. A little bit. A little more on the top end, a little less at idle. I dig it. This one will be going in the Shopify store, guys. So if you are interested, it'll be on Facebook Marketplace. It'll be in the Shopify store. Hit me up, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace out.
Losing my sanity, probably.